You're not going to believe all the crazy events that happen in the Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness. What's up, everybody? We are the Jersey Comic Crew, Rob and Chris here, and we thank you so much for tuning in today and hope you're having a fantastic day. Now, this is your spoiler warning, guys, of course. If you haven't watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, don't watch this video. We're going to be talking our review and discussion of the episode, and it's going to be chock full of spoilers. Now, Chris, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the episode, I want to talk broad strokes. I want to talk theme, music, and all that kind of stuff that I love. Yeah. Since before this movie came out, they've been saying this has a horror movie tone in this, and this movie definitely shows that. This movie's definitely creepy. Obviously, there's death in this movie that we didn't think we'd see. Wanda's covered in not blood, but motor oil, but it gives that same effect. The music, the score, and how they work it together is beautiful. The music stops at key moments. The scene where they're getting chased in the tunnel underneath, Chris. Yeah. And everything stops and slows down, and then the water's coming down. You see Doctor Strange's focus, ready to attack. That naturally built suspense, was so quiet. Everybody was so zoomed in on that scene. I think they did a very great job of capturing that tone in this movie.
I agree, Rob. Some of those long cinematography one-shots, right, create suspense, helps the tone keep it going. This is definitely the darkest movie Marvel's done, right? It is extremely dark. It feeds into that horror genre, that thriller genre, that, you know, there's some jump scares, there's some tense moments. That is kind of the Sam Raimi motif. He obviously did Ash, versus Evil Dead. He is a horror guy. He loves that stuff. And it is also a high death toll in this movie. We see a lot of people that we know and love from comics. They may not be from the 616, but they all die brutally. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is new for the MCU. Like, clearly they've heard the Disney-fying thing and they're tired of getting made fun of. I'm glad you mentioned the music. One of my favorite scenes of this movie is the fight Strange has with the Dark Doctor Strange from that broken universe where they're using the musical notes. But it's not just the musical notes. They took the theme from the background of the movie and used it as like a fighting motif. I thought that was so unique, so cool in some of the power mystical stuff that you can play around with in a Doctor Strange film. So I love that kind of stuff.
I think it just shows the ingenuity of Doctor Strange, right? He gets thrown into a piano, he slaps some keys, he looks at musical notes. First thing he comes to mind, he's just going to go with it and use his music to attack each other. It felt a little weird. Like, I enjoyed it a lot, but like looking back at it, I'm like, all right, we get a weird musical battle in the movie. Strange, but that's the whole point of this movie. It's strange, the multiverse, it's madness, things are crazy. Like you said, they took the background scene and they made it into that. So often we're used to our favorite heroes fighting to music and we just accept it as norm. And this is like, oh, we're fighting with music and that's how you're getting it. And when the music gets high intense, you see the battle gets intense. The one little flick of the harpsichord comes in.
That was great.
Throws everything off. Beautiful. Well done.
That was so cool.
The other thing this movie did really well was with Wanda and her darkness, right? They made her feel like a threat. All of us comic book fans are like, all right, Wanda, when she goes off, you can't stop her. And when she gets to the Illuminati, which was fantastic, by the way, the death toll, she just obliterates everyone. They're like, we're not afraid of her. I'm like, she's going to kill everybody here except maybe Professor Xavier can hold her off for a little bit. And that's all you got. And that's exactly what happened. She just obliterates everybody.
The Illuminati, I'm glad you mentioned it because honestly, that's all I really want to talk about for the rest of time. This is one of those scenarios where I was so like upset and emotional that we were not sitting next to each other when Professor X rolls in the X-Men 92 hovercraft and the theme song from the cartoon plays. I literally like had no pearls to clutch, but I was clutching my chest.
Dude, when Jim Halpert came on the screen, I screamed. Like only a handful of people in the audience screamed. And I'm like, oh my God! Because I totally caught me off guard. And they're like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, and the other guy, like 3 seats down to my right, he looked over. He's like, I know, man. And I'm like,
thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for somebody for understanding it. And then, like, I had to explain to her, like, why everybody was freaking out about John Krasinski being cast in Fantastic Four. Because it's been a fan casting for years. We've seen images and we're losing our minds. But, yeah, this is one of those moments I wish I was with you because, like, all these Easter eggs of these people coming out. Captain Carter, which we knew was there, but it was still great to see her there.
Fantastic.
And then Black Bolt. Fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, my God. And
so good.
We're going to talk more about the Illuminati, our thoughts on them and their world and all that kind of stuff in a separate video. We want to kind of focus this whole video here on just the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness speaking of madness, we were talking about Wanda. We got to get back to Wanda. Because we're talking off air, and I think we're kind of in the same boat that Wanda stole the show. This felt like another Wanda Maximoff movie, whether to complete her arc, whether it's the middle part of her villain arc. It's yet to be determined because we don't know what's coming up next. I don't know where we go from here with Wanda.
I think we go towards the redemption arc now. I think we had WandaVision, right? And the end of WandaVision is literally the prequel to this film. I agree with you in that sense. This is, to me, a Scarlet Witch movie because she sets up everything from the beginning, right? Yeah. She's the one going after America Chavez. She's the one who basically know who she is before they do. She has gone down this rabbit hole with the Darkhold, and we see the Darkhold's effect in every single universe, whether it's her or Strange or someone else getting corrupted by it and how it affects that world. I think by the end, we are kind of done with the Wanda stuff, whether or not it was done well with the storyline, where it's the whole like realization that you're the monster thing.
So I was fine.
A little abrupt.
I was fine with that, believe it or not, that realization that she's the monster. My issue was before and after. Before, when she's going full mama crazy mode and she's like lashing out, it kind of felt like they were stalemated a couple of times, and I felt like you could have pushed the throttle even more. I know for Marvel, this whole movie was pushing the envelope. Yeah. But I was like, to really sell the point of Wanda being the strongest Avenger and crazy and consumer madness, I felt like you needed to push it a little bit more to get to that point, because I feel like so many times they're at a stalemate and they don't know what to do. And it wasn't a stalemate because Doctor Strange is also powerful. I thought it was a stalemate for convenience sake. That's kind of how it read sometimes, which that might be just me overlooking into the movie. But afterwards, when she goes crazy and she's like, oh my God, I realize I'm the monster, I totally understand that Wanda would do that. My thing is when she breaks the Darkhold, it tears it down onto herself. I felt that was too much of an easy out, because I was fine with her stopping the attack on American Chavez and all this kind of stuff because she realizes she's the monster. But because she has all of that and the craziness inside of her, I thought she would lose her mind, and like she could still explode the Darkhold for the sake of the MCU. Accidentally explodes it and flies away because she doesn't know what she has to do, because she's still realizing she's the monster. Her destroying the Darkhold and realizing that, hey, nobody else is gonna get this, goes from like understanding to the problem to acceptance. And I felt that was so quick. I felt like if you would have just like, all right, I understand I'm the monster, and then I lash out and like my mind's starting to go crazy, and then you set Wanda up later for the end of her real villain arc where she's just like, she's not in control mentally, she's just lashing out. But I guess Marvel doesn't want to do that because they already got that with this movie, and like you said, they're gonna move towards a redemption arc. It just felt like we were good pacing wise, and then you rushed the ending of her like going crazy and acceptance. And her just like, whether she's quote unquote dead and kills herself and breaks everything down. I don't think so. I hope not, because that'd be a waste of a character. I just don't know the future plan. And that's why for me, I'm sitting here apprehensive. What are you going to do with Wanda? What's going to be her villain arc at the end of this? Or is she just going to be fine and now she just has to make amends with everybody?
So she's definitely not dead, Rob, because Kevin Feige did say that this is not the end of her story. There's going to be more stuff with Wanda, possibly as a Scarlet Witch or going back to just the Wanda Maximoff moniker. Either way, she will be in future projects. Now, what you said at the end, I do really think about that, where we had WandaVision make her this villain, and Strange kind of does the, hey, you can be back on the lunchbox if you help me out here. Kind of like, I don't care about Westview. Yeah. Doesn't really matter. And it's like, well, it does kind of matter when you take over a couple hundred people's minds. Now, I don't think that redemption arc's going to be as easy. I think now it's going to be a lot more work. Could it be now that she actually helps with the multiverse situation, which was the ask in the beginning of the film? Okay. Or is she going to maybe go try to find White Vision now, which is still out there in the universe? Maybe try to repair her life slowly with the acceptance that she made herself into this monster that was only revitalized with the actualization of her kids, right? The action of, oh my God, I don't realize it until my kids kind of told me. This motion of, I'm doing this for the right reason. We all kind of get into that in one way or another, whether it's this severe or not, where you're focused on something, you can't be stopped, you're doing what you're doing, and you don't realize if you're hurting the people around you or possibly just not paying attention to something you should be paying attention to. Obviously, this is the extreme, but that kind of was the flow of her character arc through this movie.
I'm just afraid that Marvel's going to make her breaking point, if she needs another breaking point, to go true mad, to do whatever they need to do for Marvel.
No more mutants?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with the result of it. I'm talking about what causes the next thing. I'm afraid that they're going to be like, oh, she sees white vision and realizes that somebody messed with her husband, and then she lashes out. I'm tired of the trope that Hollywood does, that like a woman gets mad because something happened to her man. It's always about like her significant other. I think we dealt with this Wanda being a mom angle so well. I'd rather that be the catalyst than, oh my God, white vision, again, you messed with my husband, I'm going to kill you. I would have rather that angle. We could have at least moved forward. I know the mom and the kids angle is still not the greatest stereotype, but it's still better than like she needs a man. Because
she's still a parent and a wife. Like,
yeah.
I don't necessarily think it was all about. It's not all about vision, right? This catalyst wasn't about.
No, this was all about our kids.
This was about, these are my children, regardless if you're the dad or the mom.
No, that's fine.
This was all about her kids, so I'm okay with that. I think we might be a little fatigued, maybe, because WandaVision spent its entire show with that, and
Maybe.
whether you saw WandaVision or the movies, maybe for people who didn't see WandaVision, that catalyst of, oh, we're still kind of in the same area we were at the end of WandaVision. There hasn't been a lot of turnover besides her going deeper down the rabbit hole. That might be the catalyst of, oh, we've kind of seen this because we are absorbing every single thing that comes out from it.
I get that. At the end of WandaVision, it seemed like she accepted Vision's death and understood that, but then she was so focused on her kids, and maybe that bled into this. I'm not really sure, but we got to talk about the other characters in this movie. There's two other major characters, Doctor Strange, who we're going to save for last because this is his movie. And right now we're going to talk about American Chavez. American Chavez was the object of obsession by Wanda because she has the ability to travel through different multiverses. Very cool. I think visually her powers look great on screen. Yep. I think her interaction with Wanda, with Wong, and Doctor Strange was fantastic. I like this character a lot. I think they did a good job with her. Seeing her at the end, at the temple, learning how to do magic, fantastic. Chris, what did you think of this new character?
I liked her, but I wanted to like her more. I felt that there was stuff left on the table or the cutting room floor with her that I didn't get a full realization. Now, I texted Rob last night, guys, saying I really liked the movie. I really liked the movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't leave it feeling like that Marvel feel that you get.
I think when you have that because of the tone, because it's so tonally different than everything. I think because it was more dark and suspenseful and like more emotionally damaging to somebody. I think that's why. Because when you watch a Marvel movie, especially on the big screen, even if it's some dark parts, you're like, wow, oh my God, amazing. And the fact that it's two Avengers going against each other as something so intimate as this versus Civil War, where it's just glam and glory and we don't know what's happening next. I think that's why you felt that way. Because I also feel that way, and that's why I feel that way.
Yeah, because we had the same points, right? We were texting a little bit last night as I'm scripting everything together. Rob and I were already on the same page. We liked the movie. We didn't necessarily love it, but even with the tone, Rob, I remember going to see Revenge of the Sith, which is extremely dark. It's the darkest Star Wars movie ever. It's Obi-Wan versus Anakin. It's two brothers to the death. And I remember leaving there profoundly affected. Still feeling like it was Star Wars, still feeling those emotional ties to it, but just profoundly affected. I didn't necessarily feel like this, and I feel like America Chavez was that catalyst to get me there, but didn't quite get me there. The control aspect through the whole movie got very old for me fast, where after we see her origin, and we see that tragic origin where she accidentally activates.
Which, real quick, was done beautifully. I love that simple thing. You don't have to worry to tell a story. You actually showed us. Very well done.
The cool little memory dome thing. Yeah. It felt very Rick and Morty almost to me. And you see her parents get sucked through the portal, which I love. Strange there going, doesn't mean they're dead. Like, look at their kid. You survived. You were able to do this. Great moment there. With her from there to now, she was like maybe 6 or 7. Now she's probably 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
She can't control at least a little bit of it by now. She's been traveling the multiverse. Again, like, her powers are great. To get to her to use her powers at the very end and somehow be either as strong or stronger than Wanda, that was a stretch for me. When this whole movie settled on Wanda is the strongest Avenger, she's unstoppable with all this power, and the kid who hasn't been able to control herself through her whole life and is kind of accidentally showing up is now extremely powerful. That to me felt like a little bit of a cheap trope in the movie for me.
I understand 1000% where you're coming from, and I do like the ending because it speaks to the future of what she can do. Her not using her powers and not understanding it at all I'm on board with it because she was 6 years old and she's very scared, running through life trying to survive until she's 15, 16, not really understanding fully how to use her powers. Fine, cool. Her fighting Wanda at the end because Strange's like, you could do this, and kind of giving herself a pet talk to fight her back. I thought that was fine, and her using her powers. Yes, it's a very used trope again, but it's one that works well. I understand where you're coming from, and like, all right, you're not beating her. What are you doing? I was kind of like, oh my god, Wanda's surprised. That's how I was in the theater. But looking back, if I had your mindset, I definitely understand where you would come from with that.
So regardless, I am excited to see what she does in the future. Yeah. Whether it's with a team like the Champions or the Young Avengers, because we're getting a lot of young characters.
That's true.
And her power set's extremely unique. Or what she learns at Kamar-Taj, whether it's a combination of her own multiversal magic with the magic that she learns and some new power set. I don't know, Rob, but I'm excited to see if she's in maybe a show. She camos in a couple shows, or she's in the next Doctor Strange movie.
I just can't wait for her future and hanging out with all these other young kid characters. Like, seeing her hanging out with Kate Bishop in my mind sounds fantastic. We haven't seen Miss Marvel yet, but I think Miss Marvel would add to that duo very well. I can't wait to see what they do with the Young Avengers stuff. But now to the meat and potatoes of the episode. This is a Doctor Strange movie. We can't not talk about Doctor Strange in a Doctor Strange movie, even though he was overshadowed by every other character.
I was like,
in
is
this
it a
movie.
Doctor Strange movie?
It's not really. Like, I like Doctor Strange in this movie. Like, I think he was fine. He was cool. But like, to me, I didn't need him. Like, I think we could have done this. We couldn't do this movie without Doctor Strange because we needed somebody to go against Wanda. Yeah. But it didn't really feel like a Doctor Strange movie. There was very little character progression for him. It wasn't really about him. He was just stopping and like maintaining everything. It just felt like fluff. Like, everything on his side felt like fluff to me.
Yeah, because his story had small growth, and Wanda had the big cataclysmic growth, realization, dark stuff. Mm-hmm. Strange's entire catalyst for this movie is he's not happy. He's miserable. He is the hero. Everyone knows his name. He's extremely famous for defeating Thanos, saving the world, figuring out the one way to beat Thanos, right? The one.
Yeah.
And in turn, what does he get? He lives by himself in the Sanctum Sanctorum, alone in a museum of magical things. And he lost the love of his life to another guy. And he's not really a surgeon anymore, right? His passion, his work passion, his life passion is kind of to the side because he's stuck in what he has to do as a hero.
They should have hammered that point home a little bit more because, like you said, it was very small. If they would have had some scenes of him like just like depressed alone after the wedding, this movie didn't have enough time to do what it needed to do. Like, it's like the second it started, it was action scene, wedding a little bit, then action, and you keep going, which I understood. But if you would have taken some time to like have him just sit there, reflect, like he's depressed after defeating Thanos, he's just sitting in there like I don't know what to do. Him getting the card, I think a conversation with him getting the invitation for the wedding and him debating whether or not going with Wong. If you would have had that 5-minute scene, I think that would have nailed home this whole thing and we would have been fine. The scene after the intro where it's crazy magic and he has a nightmare, he has the invitation and he's like, what do I do? Do I go to this wedding? And he talks to Wong and like you can see like he's very depressed, he doesn't know what to do. And then you see a small time skip a couple days later or whatever. Like, it doesn't even need to be a time skip to show us, but like then he goes to the wedding and then he's like, oh, you were in my dream a little while ago. Would have been fine because magic is not the next day immediate. It's all weird and wonky. You could have had that. She was like, oh, for me it was yesterday. Cool. Add more mystery to the film, but then like you would have had time to show like he was really sad and depressed. We just kind of got that because they said that and he's not with the girl he wanted to be. They didn't do anything to show us aside from that flashback scene because he missed her. But we got all that from before. We knew that like he missed a girl and he loved her and he's not with her. But we didn't really get any focus on like, all right, he's a superhero, he has all this stuff, and he's still sad.
I don't know. I think I'm on the opposite on this one. I like the portrayal that he had of his personal journey through this movie. I like that journey where he is dealing with either some type of acute depression, and how do a lot of people deal with that? They keep themselves busy, right? Yeah. They work, they overwork, they dig themselves deeper into work, they ignore stuff. right? He goes to Christine's wedding to pretend he's happy. People do that all the time. I thought they showed it great where, especially by the time you get to variant Christine Palmer in the Illuminati universe, it's starting to realize that all the Stranges are similar. How does our Strange differentiate himself? I think the first step was admitting to Christine, even though it's the alternate Christine, that he loves her in every universe, which might take over the I Love You 3000 for the rest of the time. I don't necessarily need him to go through a therapy session in an action, mystical, crazy, dark thriller. I can tell that under the surface. It's hints. And then at the end with Wong, are you happy? Those little tidbits to me are more than enough to be like, oh, he is going through it. For the viewer to kind of comprehend and read between the lines of what's actually going on with this poor guy.
I totally understand that, and it's the job of the viewer to get these secondary tones of the movie and stuff like that. It's just with a Doctor Strange movie, you would want that kind of more upfront, and I'm just a sucker for emotional development and seeing that kind of stuff. So maybe that just me being selfish, and I want to see that a little bit more in my face. But when you look at what's the main plot, Wanda going crazy, destroying the multiverse, you're like, all right, Doctor Strange being sad, probably has to take a second seat. And they had to do so much reshoots. This was most of it's during COVID, and they had all this kind of stuff. So all these movies during these times are going to be a little wonky, not as polished as one might expect. Now, moving on to this movie's role and importance in the major MCU. I know myself, Chris, and many of you guys at home thought this movie was going to be breaking the scales for the MCU. It's going to set a new tone, give the MCU direction, because there's no direction right now. We're just kind of like developing all these characters. All these movies are setup movies. Like, all right, now we know what's going on with this person. We got this person. Introducing new players, reconfirming new players and stuff like that before the next big arc comes out. I understand that. I'm fine. I was just a little disappointed because I thought this movie would at least give us some inclination of the world that's moving forward. It really didn't. It just like, all right, more Doctor Strange stuff. He has a third eye because of the after credit scene, and he touched with the Darkhold. Wanda understands that she can't be a mom and destroys the Darkhold, so we don't have to worry about any sorcerers getting that. It's not really enough for me, and I thought we would get more.
I think you're on the right track because that's how the movie was marketed, Rob. This movie was marketed as the bigger than life, the it's called Multiverse of Madness, right? It's supposed to connect dots and open new worlds, which raises that hype level. And we got more of a centralized story within the crazy. I think they bit off a little more than they could chew in some aspects.
Maybe.
And I think some of the marketing kind of teased bigger things, right? We got Professor Xavier. We got Captain Carter. A lot of that was in the marketing and these teasers. The word Illuminati was in it. All that stuff, we were asking ourselves, oh, they must have something bigger planned if they're throwing that in the trailers, right? Wasn't really the case in a lot of ways. Some of it, surprise characters, especially the Illuminati. But this was really a centralized story of a mother in pain, a guy who is trying to help himself by helping others, and a lost child who needed a home and a family. And it became a story that kind of got shrunken down within this endless scape of worlds. So some of it's the marketing, some of it is fan expectation.
And I understand fan expectation.
You know what I mean? And a lot of it comes down on what we kind of perceive is going to be. But at the end of the day, we have to take with what we got. And I thought we got a good movie, just not a great movie.
I agree. And the fan expectation is definitely something when you go into any Marvel property, you have to realize that there's that bias and we have to have that check. This movie being a very localized story, going through a couple multiverses, it's fine. It's great. Us wanting more, that's more on us than them. With respect to this, it's still a great movie, right? It's still enjoyable. I would still watch it again. Going to the stuff you said before with WandaVision and Loki and all the other things that have messed with the multiverse, Spider-Man No Way Home, I thought this movie would be what happened because of it, but no, this is more of like, here's another instance where you play with the multiverse. So now I'm realizing, stuff that we talked about off air, especially from your perspective. You're like, Rob, these all these little points, and then it's gonna come into play later. I just thought we were gonna get that sooner, and I know that's me being too excited, going into the hype like I do, but what it is.
But it's not though, bud. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because that is my biggest catalyst of this film, where you have Kevin Feige at the premiere in LA on Monday talking about, the end of result of Loki. and the end result of No Way Home are the catalyst to push this movie forward. And all of that is the cause of this with He Who Remains, with Loki and Sylvie. But there's not even a mention of, hey, there's something wrong with the multiverse. There's something that is up the ante, that this is now a bigger issue. There's nothing. There's no talk about it. I'm not looking for, hey, Loki and Sylvie did this, we need to fix it. But there has to be, with all these magical sorcerer supremes, hey, something is really wrong here. What happened? Let's figure out what happened.
We're going to talk about this in a separate video of like what the future of Marvel and at the credits thing. But real quick to address that point. And that's something I think this movie desperately needed. Some conversation about the future of what happened because of all this multiverse chaos. Guys, I know you're thinking, what about the after credits scene? He's going to go into do another dark multiverse with his future wife. We're going to save that for a separate video. We want to
Wait, what?
Yes, I know.
Future wife? What? Huh?
Man, it happened in the comic books. We're going to talk about that all in a separate video. The future of the MCU, the future of Doctor Strange and all that. We just wanted to focus on this movie as a whole. And Chris, just to wrap up our final thoughts here. Movie was great. Great tonally. Great interaction with all the characters. I wanted more. Some of that is fan expectation needs to be checked. Some of it needs to be, you need to fix how you market it. But overall, very fun movie, and I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. I don't dislike this movie at all, guys. I know I'm kind of the grief eater of the two of us, which would make me probably love this movie more because it's all about grief. But I thought it was a very solid film. Wasn't my favorite Marvel movie. I didn't leave feeling that, oh my God, I just had a Marvel experience. But there were some really positive things, but it did leave a lot on the table for me. But that's why we always keep the third eye open.
I see what you did there. Yeah, guys, we want to hear your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. What you thought of the movie. Did you enjoy it as much as we did, or did you hate it? Any theories are possible. And remember, stay tuned, because in a couple of days, we're going to talk about that after credit scene and the future of Doctor Strange and the MCU.
And guys, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, like if you enjoyed the video. Really helps us out a lot. If you're new, subscribe, turn notifications. As Rob said, we got more Doctor Strange. We are not done with the Multiverse of Madness, and you want to be right here for when those videos drop. And if you missed anything, make sure to check it out right here on the channel. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That's Rob Moran. We are the Jersey Comic Crew, and we will see you next time.